and uh, let everybody know that Neil is okay. He's home right now, and he's laying down right here beside me on the bed, itching his booty, itching his back, and it has been really hot here in Arkansas for the last week. Really, really hot. I mean, it was hot last week too, but it has been superiorly hot this week. And the last 2 days that my husband has come home from work, I can always tell when he's not feeling well because when he'll walk through the door, his whole coloring. My husband's a ginger. For those of you guys that don't know, he's a natural redhead. So he's a white boy, and he's either one of two colors, white or red or pink, okay, from the sun. And so I can always tell when he's not feeling good because it's almost like he'll get this weird, like, purplish, whitish, bluish, like, it's like the, it's like everything's going out of him. Like he's turning to a ghost, you know what I mean? Like, almost like an overdose, but it's like from his bodily functions failing and him being overheated, him being dehydrated, him cramping up, and he'll come in and his face will be this weird color. I can always tell when he's not feeling good. And so today he was at work and he had to literally get picked up off of his route. He couldn't finish the route because of how bad it was. And my husband never taps out. Like, I've been telling him since he started this job, what, how long have you been at this job? 4 years? 3 years? 3 years? 3 years? Um, 3.5 years? Okay. I've been telling him since he started this job at 3.5 years, tap the fuck out if you have to. Fuck them motherfuckers. You know what I mean? Like, if you need help, get help. And but my husband never taps out. But today he had to tap out, y'all. He had to tap out. And like I said, he never does that. And it's so scary because it scares the shit out of me. Heart attack, heart failure, heart problems running the family on my husband's side. That's how my father-in-law passed away from a sudden heart attack that was like, it caught us all off guard. My mother and father-in-law were babysitting Nate when he was probably like 3, and my father-in-law had a massive heart attack like right there in front of my son and my mother-in-law, and basically died in the ambulance, and they had him on life support when we got there. So that's like my biggest fear is Neil having a heart attack or something, uh, having a heart attack out there. So tomorrow we're gonna go. Tomorrow we're gonna go to Lowe's and Home Depot and try to find a portable air conditioning unit for the truck that he drives at work. So the company that my husband works for, they have been buying new fleets of vehicles, and so the new fleet of vehicles with air conditioning in it for my husband's route will probably be in by like the winter time. And so this summer, it's just like we can't. It is what it is. You know what I mean? It is what it is. And so this is the worst part about having this job, working for the post office, is the summertime. The beginning of the summer, it's all good. But the last like 1 or 2 months of the summer is when it's like, it's deadly. The heat is deadly. And so this job is so awesome. Even during the wintertime when it's the holidays and you're getting all the packages, that's easy. Like, you're out there, it's cold, but they put chains on their tires if they have to go in the snow or the ice. And my husband's a great driver. Like, he can drive in anything. And so it's not a big deal. That's why it's like, it it's not so bad that it's like too bad that he can't handle it. It's like just a couple of months out of the year that they have to really struggle in the heat like this. But man, I'm telling you what, this is a different kind of heat, y'all. This isn't hey guys, I see all y'all, I'm sorry. This is not the same kind of heat. So if y'all don't know this about me and my husband and my family, my dad was also a mailman for my whole life when I was a little girl. He actually became a postmaster when I was like 13 or 14, I think. But from the time I was like a little girl till about 13 or 14, my dad had a route that he walked. He didn't drive a car. He would park his truck and walk this whole route on Grand and Central in Hot Springs, Arkansas, which was basically the hood back then. And my dad would come home and tell us stories about how um, this is back when food stamps were literally on like checks, food stamp like check things that you would get these paper things. And so he would come home and he would tell my mom about how all the little old ladies would be waiting at their mailboxes for their food stamp cards or their food stamp check things, and or their disability checks. And that's the kind of like route that my dad ran. And these little people, these people loved him in the hood. My dad would they would make my dad fried chicken, cheesecakes, all kinds of stuff during the holidays and send it home to our family to eat. So my dad would come home with like all this awesome fucking, like I'm just gonna it was a black neighborhood. I'm trying to say it in like a respectful way, but y'all know what I mean. It was like little old ladies and then Section 8 housing. Okay. And so they all loved my dad. And so instead of like giving him money or anything like that during the Christmas holidays, because that's what a lot of people will do, because it was, the Section 8 housing and they couldn't afford that, they would put their heart and soul into making my dad like pecan pies, cheesecakes, fried chicken dinners, greens, fucking black-eyed peas. And my dad would come home with all this fucking food during Christmas for our family. I can remember one time my dad brought home, he had this little old man named Mr. Andrew. He was about 82 years old, little old black man, and his wife. And my dad brought home a cheesecake that was like, you can't even see my hands, but it was long and it was a big pan of cheesecake, rich homemade cheesecake. And so my dad brought it home and we all got some. Cheesecake is my favorite dessert, if y'all didn't know that. So if you ever want to send me a present, you can send me cheesecake. But anyways, so my dad would he brought home this cheesecake. We all got some soul food. Exactly. And so we had a dog and our dog's name was Petey. And my dad basically loved this dog like he was his own child. And my dad would overfeed the dog. My dad would give him food from the table and that dog got so fat. So we're all chilling and we went to go watch TV in the living room and all of a sudden we hear the sound. And we all turn around and Petey, who has a chair at the table because my dad would allow him to sit in a chair, is at his chair on the table eating the whole fucking cheesecake. And my dad was like, oh my God, So needless to say, Petey didn't get no treats that night, but he damn near ate half of this huge sheet pan cheesecake. But like, I always would see my dad out there, like, my dad always worked really, really hard. He started at the post office as a mail clerk where he would just sort mail inside. And then he was assigned his own route where he did that for about 15 years. He walked a route. And then for the last 15 or 20 years that he worked there, because he worked there for over 30 years, for the last 15 or 20 years that he worked there, he was a postmaster, which is like over the post office, So when Neil lost or left his job at Kroger, we were trying to figure out like what would be a great job that he could have that he wouldn't have to be a manager, because I don't know about you guys, but like me and my husband both being recovering addicts, we both worked in upper management and we really struggle with delegating authority and holding people accountable that are below us, because we want to be accepted. We want you to like us. We want to help you. And so it's just like me in upper management. When I worked in upper management, people knew, my employees knew if they paper bills, that's what I'm talking about. If people knew if they couldn't make it to work, they could call Miss Nicole and say, hey, Nicole, I'm not going to be there. Will you cover for me? And I would do that. Same with my husband. They would call Mr. Neil, or Mr. P, they would call him. Hey, Mr. P, I'm not going to be able to make it. And then Mr. P would do their job for them. Okay. And so that's what happened with me and my husband when we were up in upper management. Same thing with my friend Sean that I've been doing the podcast with, you guys. He's the same way, where we just really struggle with delegating authority and holding people accountable. And we really want to do such a great job. If somebody's not doing the job the way we think they should do it, we're going to do it for them. Get the fuck out of the way. You know what I mean? Get the fuck out of the way. I got this. And I'm the same fucking way. That's how Neil was when he worked at Kroger. And because of that situation, he would be at work for so many hours at a night. And he would be there late. He would be overworked, underpaid, and all that. A lot of stress. So when he left that job at Kroger, I was trying to think of a job that he could get that would benefit him, that would help our family, where we'd have insurance and all that. And that's when he got the job. I said, apply for the post office. And so when you apply for a job like that, you have to take a test. It's like, you don't just get hired. You have to qualify for it. So Neil's very smart. He took the test, he passed it with flying colors, and, the rest is history. But, it's a really, really great job, except for this one situation, the summertime, So anyway, I know you guys saw me Friday morning. I was crying and very, really emotional because I was worried about Neil. And I feel like I kind of manifested this shit to happen because I've been worried about it and talking about it so much, but if you guys work out in the heat, or if you know people that work out in the heat and you see them, and you're in a residential area, put up an ice cooler outside of your door with some water bottles in it and stuff for the guys that come by, because it's really fucking hot. It's really hot. So anyway. Yeah, so he has Gatorade and all that stuff, you guys. I mean, he's all that, and he wasn't. It's not that he wasn't drinking. He's drinking plenty of water. It's just heat exhaustion. It is so hot, and so yeah, it's bad. It's really bad. I asked him. I said, "How do the people that are older than you? Make it out there?" And he's like, other people are struggling and having a hard time too. I mean, there was a mailman that died a month ago. I know y'all saw it in the news, that died from heat exhaustion, And so this is not just an Arkansas problem. This is a problem with all these companies. They need to provide these drivers with fucking air conditioning in their fucking trucks, so at least they can get relief from the heat when they're inside the truck, Honestly, Christina, I haven't left my house. That's how I'm handling it. It's the only way you can leave your house if it's first thing in the morning. By 10 or 11 o'clock, it's blazing balls out there. Noon, fuck it. It was so hot that they were letting schools out early. Okay. So that tells you something. The schools were shutting down. I've been wanting to do exercising and stuff, but I've even been telling my son, because we're going to do it together. Nate's going to start walking with me and keep me company. And y'all will probably be with me too, because I'll probably go live when I do it. But I was even telling him, it's too hot. Mommy's too out of shape. I don't want to have a heart attack out there. I don't want to die on the fucking concrete having a heat stroke. It's fuck that shit. But anyway, I just wanted to update you guys and let y'all know that Neil's home safe and that he's resting. Because I felt bad that I had to cancel my live stream. But earlier, before he even called and had to get home, I was not feeling good. I was having a really bad migraine, but that went away. I'm okay now. Yeah, I'm ready for this heat wave to move on over. Like, seriously. Seriously. So, hey girl, what's up, Brenda? Somebody, is Amanda in here? Amanda, are you in here? A girl named Amanda commented on my page, and she wanted to get a hold of me about something that was important. And I'm, if you need to get a hold of me, you guys can message me on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or anywhere. Oh, Nate's feet. Yeah, I just asked him that a few minutes ago too. His feet are still hurting him, but we're not, those shoes that I bought him, I'm either going to take them back or buy insoles for them. I'm almost 100% positive for certain that he has plantar fasciitis. And I'll show you guys the shoes really fast. Hold on. His feet are still bothering him, but he's been up playing his Oculus. So that means, I guess they're not bothering him as bad because he was playing on his Oculus. So, okay. So these are the shoes that I bought him. They're Adidas, they're cool, right? But do you see how they're like, they don't have no arch in them. I mean, they're just like flat right here. And I didn't realize that, he tried them on, he liked them, so he bought them. But all his other shoes, like he has these Jordans, which these have like a really good fucking arch support in them. So do these shoes I got from Temu. These even have a really good arch support in them. So I didn't realize that he went from having, super duper good arch support in his shoes to having no arch support. And that's the difference. And so that's why his feeties hurt.
They're building. They're going to run out of bills. There's no way they have max bills. I'm healing up.
Yeah, whenever I do start going live and doing the walks, it'll be on here on my YouTube channel. Because I want to do it with you guys and I want to track my progress. Because I really want to I want to track my progress of losing weight. I really want to stick to it. And I think by, sorry, I'm picking this pimple. I think by using the YouTube as like an accountability thing, it'll help me to stay the course and keep doing it. You know what I mean? Oh God, Amanda, I would kill to have a 75 degree day here. Like that would be so wonderful. But it is over. It was like 107 degrees in my car when I started it on the thermometer. 107 is what it said. Do y'all love my Patreon? That makes me so happy. And so what I'm going to do tomorrow, are all of you guys off tomorrow for Patreon? If y'all want to, we can do Patreon during the day, and I'm going to make that cucumber salad on Patreon live with you guys tomorrow, like at noon or 10, something like that, if everybody's off work, because I had made it for the nighttime because I was afraid people wouldn't be able to make it till the live, but since tomorrow's Sunday, and people will be off, and it'll be and just so you know, if you can't make it, like people like Indigo, if you can't make it, girl, it's going to be on there. It's going to be recorded. So I'm going to leave it up in Patreon.
Yep, I just saw him. I just saw him use it.
Maybe I'll reach out to Liquid IV. The cucumber salad. Okay, here are the ingredients. Okay, if you want a big batch, I use like 3 to 4 cucumbers. Okay, 2 tomatoes, 1 whole purple onion diced small, chickpeas drained and rinsed, black beans drained and rinsed, and corn optional if you want it, a bell pepper cut small, garlic salt, black pepper, and Italian dressing with feta cheese crumbled all over and mixed into it. And it is really freaking good. It's really good. It's really refreshing and it's just delicious. It's just delicious. In fact, I might make it right now. Since we're talking about it.
RJ, get his reboot and run. Ruben, get his reboot and run. RJ, you're the one running into fights.
I don't have any feta cheese though. That sucks. It's good with or without the feta cheese. No, I'll save it for tomorrow. We'll make that. I'll make it tomorrow with you guys. I'm going to do the dishes right now though while I talk to y'all. Ooh, that sounds really good. I have some hamburger meat defrosting so I can make tacos for tomorrow.
Okay, not one.
I'm really trying to get in the swing of things with my Patreon. I feel like I got a good schedule going on with all the stuff that we're doing during the weekends and stuff. For those of you guys that don't know, on my Patreon, we have 3 weekends out of the month that we hang out and do stuff. And so the first weekend of the month is my free weekend with my son and my husband. And then the second weekend of the month is our patron-only movie night. And then our third weekend of the month is our patron-only Zoom recovery call. And then the fourth weekend of the month is our live stream. So we got a lot going on in that month, Becca.
I got 6 kills.
If I say so myself, okay, I have one of the best Patreons out of any YouTube creator I've ever seen. Okay. I'm just going to put that out there. I'm going to put my Patreon in the link for y'all. But I'm keeping it real, okay? Because I don't know any other YouTuber that does more than I do in their Patreon. I need to join... you know whose Patreon I was actually considering joining was Christina Randall's, okay? Because I heard she does like extra behind the scene kind of cool stuff in there about her true crime cases. But the only other person whose Patreon I'm a part of is Tracy's. And I feel like Tracy does, you know, quite a bit of stuff in hers. And I feel like now that she's moving on to true crime content, her channel is going to be even better. And it's going to be really, really interesting. So I'm excited to see her do all that. Hey, PJ, what's up, honey? Thank you, Sherry. I appreciate you, girl. I really do. And just so y'all know, like in my Patreon, it's not just me that posts in there. My mods also help out. They post a lot of content in there too. My mods are Sherry that's in the chat now, Pixie that's in the chat now, Megan, I think she's in the chat also, and Allie Lynn. And they all moderate for me. And so they all have their own special posts that they make on all my social media platforms that are things like positive photos with Allie, inspirational quotes. Pixie does arts and crafts in her own Telegram chat, and she has her own recovery. It's like a recovery, positivity, arts and crafts Telegram chat. Okay. And Megan does music with Megan. And so it's like just inspirational, fun stuff, you know, to help out people that are going through the struggle, you know. And so that's why I'm really strict about who mods on my channel. Like, people will ask me to be a moderator and stuff like that, and I won't let you moderate because I don't let people that I don't know moderate my channel, because I've learned the hard way what happens when that happens. And so these are people that I trust. These are people that I know 100% without a doubt. If something's going down, they're not going to flip on me. They're not going to flop on me. They're going to let me know what's going down. They're also people that help me stay accountable. And if I'm doing something they think is not good, they'll let me know. They'll say, hey, I'm worried about you. You're doing this and I don't think it's a good look. And so they're not just yes men. Okay, so I'll give y'all an example. Pixie had messaged me the other day because she was worried because she saw something going on somewhere and wanted to let me know about it, you know? And so that's the kind of people that I want modding for me, is people who have my best interest at heart. You know what I mean? So, yeah, he's okay. He basically had heat stroke at work today. He had to be picked up off of his route today. And so I was freaking out a little bit. Can you please tell us how your role as a homemaker has changed with sobriety? I find dishes and chores so hard after years of hardly doing them. Oh, wow, that's a great question. How has my role of being a mom and a homemaker changed since I've gotten sober? So, when I was in active addiction, honey, you weren't going to catch me washing no dishes, okay? A lot of the times I lived with other people. I had roommates. And so a lot of the times, I was just paying rent to live there, so I didn't have that many responsibilities. But, when I was younger and I was growing up, my dad and my mom taught me how to take care of my things. They taught me about having my oil changed every 3,000 miles. They taught me about keeping my stuff nice so that way I have it for a long time. So I had the basic knowledge of how to, take care of my home and cook and stuff like that. I just didn't do it a lot because I was actively using drugs. Since I've gotten sober, and I've been sober for a while now, I hate cleaning. It's not something I enjoy doing. Some people enjoy cleaning. Some people really like it. It's something they look forward to doing. It gives them relief. It helps them with their anxiety, that kind of thing. I hate it. So the way that I get a lot of my stuff done is like I'm doing right now. I will do it with you guys when I'm live. And that's how I have trained myself to get shit done. Now, of course, not all the time. A lot of the time I don't do it with y'all because I have to do it more than, once a week. But, a lot of the times I'll just turn on my live stream and come on here and chit chat with you guys while I do the dishes. Now, deep cleaning, things like, where I have to dust, and I was wiping down the baseboards the other morning after we got off a live stream because this apartment, they had the baseboards. I hate them. Let me show y'all. See these baseboards right here? They have a lip. That's a lip right there. It's like a little stand. And they will gather dust on them. And so I was wiping them clean the other day with a wet sponge because it was driving me insane. But I just use like my audience and you guys as like motivation to do stuff and get it done. So that way I don't have to do it alone and it's not so boring, But it's changed tremendously. When Nathaniel was first born, I was living with my mother and father-in-law. Me, my husband, and my son, and my mother and father-in-law all lived underneath the same roof until May of 2015. Then in July of 2015, CPS came to my house and took my son from me. So, while I lived with my mother-in-law, and this is, I believe this is a reason why my mother-in-law didn't like me very much back then, was because, I didn't clean her house for her. That was her fucking house. You know what I mean? So I would just kind of stay to myself when it came to that kind of stuff, So of course, after dinner or something, I would help with dishes or something like that. But for the most part, I really just stuck to myself in our room and, didn't do much. But now that I'm a mom, I try to at least make sure that my house is not nasty. I want it to smell good in here. I want the carpets to be nice and clean. That's one of my biggest pet peeves because in the old house I lived in, we had a lot of dogs back then. We had 5 dogs and we had a lot of accidents and it was just, I hated it. And so since we have moved in here, we only have Paco and Jetta, and I'm really peculiar about making sure that I clean up really, really well after the dogs and make sure they're not having accidents. If they do have an accident because they're really old, they're senior citizen dogs, I get to it right away and I clean it up right away. I don't let it just sit, or ignore it because when we lived in the old house, I got really depressed living there, and I would just kind of ignore it. It got to a point where it was so overwhelming for me that I felt trapped, you know. And so now that I live in this new place and it's nice and clean and brand new, I am really on top of it, you know, really on top of it. Yeah, we take them down to, I have to take Paco and Jetta. My husband takes them down first thing in the morning, every single morning. And then I do the midday shift. So we've worked out shifts because if y'all don't know this, listen, motherfuckers. If y'all don't know this, we live on the 3rd floor, okay? So it's hot and it's hard to get down them stairs when you're fat like I am. So we take shifts. Neil does early morning and I do the midday shift. And then a lot of the times he'll do the evening shift. But like tonight, I did the evening shift because he's sick and not feeling good. So yeah, we take him out. But yeah, that's how my cleaning and stuff, that's how I get my cleaning and stuff done. I also, now that we have our own place and we're not renting from my mother-in-law, I also look at this as this. And when my house is cluttered and nasty and stinky, and how I feel cluttered and nasty and stinky and dirty. So I can keep my house clean and pristine, and that makes me feel clean and pristine, you know? And so also, I want my son to learn from my example to take care of his stuff. You know what I mean? So me taking care of my home is training my son to do the same, you know? Welcome to Patreon, Lulu. We're glad to have you, baby girl. So yeah, a lot of things in life I don't like to do. Like, I don't enjoy cleaning, right? I don't enjoy getting my car's oil changed. I don't enjoy going to the doctor and doing anything, things like that. I don't like doing that kind of stuff. I'm really set in my ways where I'm a homebody. A lot of the reasons why I'm like that is because I had no stability in my active addiction. I went from having a lot of stability in my life, living with my mother and father, growing up as a young girl with 2 parents who loved me and took really good care of me. My mom and dad gave me the world. My dad literally did everything. He's amazing. He's the greatest dad ever. My mom and my dad took such good care of me. I never experienced any abuse at their hands, you know. Yes, my dad believed in corporal punishment at that time. And back in the day, you know, this is when parents believed in spanking their kids still. So I did get spanked with the belt and stuff like that. Which, you know, now that I'm older, I realize, you know, my parents shouldn't have done that to me. And I don't do that to my son. But, you know, it didn't make me a bad person. And I'm okay, you know. It caused me a little bit of trauma. But I'm all right. I bounce back, you know. But I had a great upbringing. But when I got into my active addiction, you know, I threw all that away and I lost everything because of my addiction. I need to fill my water bottle up. This house is really easy to take care of because it's small. You know, we went from living in a 2-story house that was huge. You know, when I first met my husband, I'll never forget the first time he took me to his parents' house, okay? And when we got there, I remember walking up the hill to go to the front door, and there was like this gate and this thing, and I thought, this is a fucking mansion. You know, I was like, they live in a mansion. Y'all are rich, aren't y'all? And my husband was like, no. And I'm like, yeah, y'all are. This is a mansion. Because this is a really big house. To me, it was a big house. And so I went from living in that house that we rented from them, which was way too big. I could not keep track with it. Like, when I tell you guys, That's a great way to set me up for failure, is to put me in somewhere where I can't handle it, you know? And so, um, we have this apartment now. It's 2 bedroom, 2 bath. Um, it's easy to take care of. I can clean it easily. I'm not stressed out about it. That's what's best for me. My mom believed in whippings, but she always wanted my dad to do the spanking. But I was a daddy's girl, so she never did that. Yeah, my dad spanked me with a belt many times, but he would get my dad had an issue with getting really angry when we were kids, and so
no, it's not worth it. Look, five tick circle and just way far away from us.
If y'all know how my personality is, I'm my father's daughter, and so I struggle with the same things my dad struggles with: control, a little bit of anger. And my dad was the same way when I was little. Now that he's older, he's not like that.
Just get it and use it later.
If you had a fairly good overall childhood, what led you to the point in your life of having an addiction? Oh, no, that's okay. That's a great question, too. Hold on. Let me get myself situated in here, and I'll tell you the story. I'm going to sit down here with Neil, and I'll get my phone set up so that way I don't have to hold it in my hand, and I'll tell you how I got addicted to drugs. Set the light here.
Why are they writing on me?
Love you, Nate. Okay, let's get that. I'm pulling a chair in here so I can put y'all up here on the thing while I sit down. Okay, so that's a great question. Let me say it again for people who didn't hear it. So, after the storm says, honest question. If you had a fairly good childhood, what led you to the point in your life of having an addiction? Okay, so I had a wonderful childhood, a great childhood. I'm talking like, we went on vacations every year with my family. My parents are still married to this day, no divorce. I have 2 little sisters who are, my best friends. So I had a really good childhood. What led me to addiction was I was a young girl. When I was a young girl, I was very insecure, okay? So there were some things that my dad struggled with, and he really pushed that onto me and my sisters. And that's why I'm trying not to do this with my son. And it's very hard because this was what was done to me. So my dad always struggled with his weight, okay? You wouldn't know by looking at him because he's always been in such great shape. He's always been very muscular. He works out. And so just looking at him, you would never know that he was somebody that struggled with weight. And it was something that he was tragically insecure about. And so he would talk about it all the time in front of me and my very young, impressionable little sisters. He would talk about him needing to lose weight, my mom needing to lose weight, me and my sisters needing to lose weight. And he was never saying it in a hateful, mean, or vindictive way. He was always saying it in a constructive criticism kind of way, like I love you, I don't want you to grow up and struggle like I have kind of way. But instead of it, helping me to see to not make the errors that he made, what it did was it made me super paranoid to become fat. Okay, so by the time I was like 13 or 14 years old, I was already like obsessively trying to control my weight by restricting my eating. And so I started having an eating disorder. I started starving myself. I went into 8th or 9th grade. I can't remember which one. 9th grade, I think. And it was the summer after 9th grade going into 10th grade. And I went to band camp that summer. And at band camp that summer, I starved myself. I starved myself for 2 weeks at band camp. I only ate one Snickers bar and one Diet Coke every single day. Okay? That's driving me insane. I have this little hair right here. So when I came back home from band camp, you guys, I had lost like 25 or 30 pounds in 2 weeks, like a lot of weight. And my dad was so proud of me. Like he was like, "You look so great." Da 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 da, blah 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 blah. He was just so proud of me. He was bragging to my sister, saying, "Look at your sister! Look what your sister did. See how great she looks. Every single one of us should do this. Every single one of us can get healthy like that." But what he didn't understand was like, I didn't get healthy. I just starved myself, you know. And so, from a young age, I was really insecure, and I was just kind of trying to find myself, you know, um, in high school. And I ended up dating somebody, a guy, and he and his friends all did drugs. They weren't they weren't drug addicts though. They were just smoking weed and doing cocaine every now and then. But I took it to the next level. Like I would, um, smoke weed every single day. I would do cocaine at school in my English class. You know what I mean? Like I was, my friends were, doing this on the weekends or every now and then, or drinking alcohol at a party. And I would drink alcohol and drink orange juice and vodka mixed in a drink on the way to school with my friend, like, so that's how my addiction started. It really just started out with, me being insecure about my weight. And then I was prescribed a medication called phentermine by my doctor. And when I got phentermine, that was the first time I had ever had a stimulant. Okay? Sorry, I had to pull that fucking chin hair out. It's driving me insane. And so I had that stimulant for the first time. And when I felt the way that made me feel, um, it made me feel better than I had ever felt before in my life because I could actually focus. I struggled with a lot of mental health problems when I was younger, also, but I didn't really know that, and my mom and dad didn't know that because back whenever I was a kid growing up, mental health wasn't really talked about like it is now. Okay, mental health was kind of taboo back then. Um, you were either like mentally well or crazy. There was no in between. Sorry about that. So, um, that's how I got introduced to stimulants. But even before I was introduced to stimulants, I was already drinking alcohol and smoking weed like addictively, like every day. Yeah, yeah. And there's, I'm the same way, Amanda. I find myself addicted to other things too. I believe that, nobody's perfect and we're all going to have things that we struggle with. And so that's why, my other addiction is food. And that's why I've been trying to change my food intake and you know, eat more home cooked meals and not go out to eat so much and make fresh, foods like that. And those are like positive changes that I'm making in my life to be better and to help with that part of my life. But as long as I'm self aware about it, I think that's the most important part. Because I could walk around all day and act like I don't know what's going on. But being self aware is like the first step to being able to make a change. So you can imagine, as a young girl, a teenager in high school, I started to use stimulants, methamphetamine, cocaine. And so I had my mind made up that I was going to use methamphetamine and cocaine, and nobody was going to tell me otherwise. And so that's what I was doing. I was using methamphetamine and cocaine. Yeah. Now, the first time I ever tried opiates, because, a lot of people don't know or they don't realize that I was addicted to opioids and methamphetamine and benzos. A lot of people think that you can like only be addicted to one drug. Um, and it started out for me with my drug of choice, methamphetamine. But because I was on methamphetamine, I was introduced to opiates, Oxycontin. I'll never forget it. The first opioid I ever took was Percocet 10. My mom had wisdom teeth surgery, and she had an old prescription of Percocet in the medicine cabinet, and she forgot about it, and so I took it. I took that motherfucker and ate it, and I loved the way it made me feel. And so, but I didn't go seeking out that high. I was still just doing meth. It wasn't until I started really getting that off on. I was living with LD, and I had started taking like Norcos and benzos. I had gotten a benzo from my boss at work. Her name was Miss Alinda, and she had cancer. She was dying of cancer. So she had Oxycontin and Xanax, morphine, all in her purse at work. And one day I was at work, and I actually worked for, like I said, the revenue office, the Department of Finance and Administration. And I was doing a lady's car tags, and she had to pay a lot of sales tax. And she was pissed. She tried to jump across the counter at me, and I had a panic attack because I had never had that experience before at my job where somebody was trying to attack me. So my boss gave me a football. And when I took it, it made me feel like I felt like I was floating on a cloud while I was typing up all these people's driver's licenses and IDs and all this shit that I did there. I was just like, and so after I had taken that benzo for the first time, I literally scheduled an appointment with my primary care physician the next week and had a prescription for Xanax, Norco, and Somas. This was back whenever, they were still like prescribing opioids like really easily. And so that's when I got really bad off on taking opioids and benzos. But I was still using methamphetamine. I just had to be a lot more, like I would make excuses and say, okay, well, me tweaking out on methamphetamine and staying up for days, by about the third or fourth day, I'm starting to look crazy, and my boss is going to start to wonder what's wrong with me, and then I'm going to get fired. So I would say, okay, instead of doing meth, I'll just take my pills, And so it started out where I was like really trying to take these pills as they were prescribed to me, but that didn't last a month. It was probably like a week, 2 or 3 weeks after I started taking them, that I started like doubling. I met this guy. So I met this guy, Jason, when I was in high school. And me and Jason, when I was in high school, had hooked up a couple times at like some parties and stuff. So we had like a past together, right? Well, he was working. He lived in a house with his mom across from my mom's job. Like my mom's job was right here, and here was Jason's house. So anytime I would go to see my mom at work or anything like that, I would always see him out there, right? And so I ended up getting pregnant by him behind my boyfriend's back at the time. And that was not a good thing. But I wasn't going to tell my boyfriend, because if I told him, he would beat the shit out of me. He was very abusive. So at that time, that's when I got into taking his mother's methadone wafers. Basically overdosing myself all the time with those methadone wafers. And I had an abortion because I knew how fucked up I was on drugs. And I remember calling my sister, because I had never had an abortion before, I called my sister and I was like, I have to have an abortion. I don't know what to do. And so me and my sister called my mom on three-way. Okay. And I told my mom about it. And of course my mom was sad. She didn't want me to have an abortion. She was crying. I was crying. We were all crying. But she's like, I love you and I respect your decision. And, I'll help you make the appointment and we'll get it taken care of. And so, I had a really good job at the time and I had insurance. And I don't even remember if they took care of insurance, but I just know that I had the money to pay for it myself. And so I made the appointment, and it was probably like a week out or something like that. And my mom came and picked me up and took me to the abortion clinic here in Little Rock. And I'll never forget when we pulled up in the driveway, there were people outside with signs, "Give us your baby." And I remember, just telling those people to fuck the fuck off and walking past them and going inside. And they give you the option to like be totally sedated or to just be on like Valium or Xanax or something like that. And so I remember they gave me like Xanax or something. And I got that done and I came home and I got a prescription of opioids for that. And so my boyfriend was none the wiser. I just gave him some pain pills and he was happy as a clam. And, he was such a piece of shit. He ignored the fuck out of me anyway. He was always just taking advantage of me anyway. But that was a experience in my life that I had. I still feel a lot of guilt and shame about it to this day. And I think back to that time in my life and I think, I wonder if I had if I was pregnant then, if I had had the baby, if I would have gotten sober. But no, I don't think I would have because, I didn't get sober when I had my son. For a lot of people, when they get pregnant, that's enough and they change their life. And I wish I could say that that was enough for me to change my life, but it wasn't. And I justified using drugs and I justified using drugs and I made excuses, so. That time, I think it was like 2003 or 4 when I got pregnant. And then when I got pregnant with my son, it was 2013. So, um, when I think about the pregnancy with my son, I think about how my mind was back then. And back then, I was, on a lot of drugs. I was on benzos, opiates, and methamphetamine. And I remember researching, and trying to find out, what I was doing to my baby because of my drug use, And in my little pea brain mind, I thought, if I stop using benzos and opioids, that's what I need to do. And I can still dabble with meth every now and then, but I'm going to try and quit that too. So I quit everything. And I was sober from everything for probably the first like 30 to 45 days of my pregnancy after I found out. But then I relapsed on methamphetamine. And then I sobered up again. And then I relapsed. And so it was back and forth like that throughout my whole pregnancy. While I was pregnant with my son, I signed up to do this test with the pregnancy place, where they were actually taking these like ultrasound things of my son and checking on him all through my pregnancy. And I don't know what it was, but it was something. And the way they were paying me for it was they were giving me 4D DVD ultrasounds of my son, so I could see him in 4D. It was, I really tried to stay sober during my pregnancy, but I failed miserably. I really did. And I feel very guilty, very, very, very guilty for that. And I wish that I could go back and change that every single day of my life. I feel extreme guilt and shame. I am 41 years old. My son is 9 years old. And I still to this day hold it against myself. Like, I very much so have not forgiven myself. And I don't know if I'll ever be able to forgive myself for that. I don't know if that's even possible, because if you're a mom, you understand what I'm saying, you know? Uh,
There's people trying to team with me.
Sorry. My son being born healthy and happy and thriving was not because of me. It was a miracle. And when I tell my story, I think it gets lost in translation sometimes with some people, especially here on YouTube. I got a couple of comments from people saying, you shouldn't tell people that your son was born healthy. Um, but I'm not saying that to say, see, I didn't do anything wrong. I'm saying that to say that my son was protected by God from me. The only way I can explain it is that my higher power knew that if my son was taken from me at birth, that I would never be able to get him back after that. If my son was taken from me the day he was born, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to bond with him. And therefore, I wouldn't have been able to get him back. He would have went into foster care, and I probably would have never seen him again, because I would have went down farther in my addiction. What I believe happened was, I believe that God intervened. I believe that miracles can happen, and I believe that my son is a direct result of a miracle happening. And I believe that God intervened and protected my son and gave me the ability to leave that hospital with my son 2 days later. Okay? And I got to form a relationship and bond with my child for the first year of his life. Because I truly believe if that hadn't happened and he had been taken from me that moment when I gave birth to him, I wouldn't have been able to pull myself out of that hole I was in. So, when Nate was born, you know, he was clean. He had no drugs in his system, and his APGAR scores were really good. And so that's why I stayed in the hospital for that night and then one more night, and then I got to go home. Thank you, Diamond Eyes. I really appreciate that. And so, um, if I had the ability to get sober during that time of my life, I would have, but I didn't have that. Like, do you know what I'm talking about? Like, I just didn't have that wherewithal or that strength or anything. But after having that relationship with my son, I hope this doesn't come off insensitive, but looking back, why do you think you were able to stop everything except the meth? Um, Honestly, this is what happened. I had read somewhere that doing Xanax can cause your child to be born with a cleft lip or cleft palate. And for some reason, in my methed out brain, I obsessively thought about that. And so that was one of my main justifications for getting off pills, right? Benzos specifically. And when I found out that I was pregnant, I had been on a meth bender. So I didn't really have any opioids in my system at the time. So I think it made it really easy for me to just like not go back to them. You know what I mean? Because what I would do during my addiction a lot of times, and my husband can tell you about this, is we would go on sprees, right? And so there was a long time where I was on many, many, many opioids, but then we went through a period where we detoxed off of all that, and then we were on meth. And this was about that time where I was really on a hard meth bender. Now, don't get me wrong, I would do Roxy's here and there, but at this time I was really on the meth really bad. And so it was easy, I think, for me to disconnect from the opioids because I didn't have to go through withdrawal really bad withdrawal or anything like that. I think I was just dabbling with them a little bit. Like I wasn't really dependent on them as bad at that time. Um, I think I can barely. Honestly, it's hard for me to remember. I don't remember going through opiate detox while I was pregnant. Neil, did I go through withdrawal while I was pregnant from opioids? I was like sporadically using those, but we were really on a meth bender. Remember, because we were getting it from that guy at Mom L.
Yeah, nice with that. I mean, I remember it. You really like. I think you just stayed at home a lot towards the end of it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And so I was at home a lot, and so um, a lot of the times I would just use in my room by myself, because Neil was actually working overnights. And so I was alone. I was at home and I was alone a lot. And so I was also hanging out with Tara. She would come and get me, and Tara didn't do opioids. Tara only smoked crack and did meth. So at that time, I was really heavily doing stimulants a lot. So it was really easy for me to disconnect from opiates and benzos because I was not doing them as much at that time, Hey, boy, be nice. But then after Nate was born, I got back on Roxy's really bad. And I mean, when I went to treatment, when Nate got taken away from me, I made Neil take me to CZ for one last time to get a Roxy before I went to treatment. I haven't really talked about that a lot because I feel a lot of shame about that. Me, I hadn't given him to CPS yet, but I knew that they were taking him from me. And I wanted like one last hurrah. And we didn't have barely any money. We only had enough money to buy me one Roxy 30. And when I tell you guys, it did nothing. I was so pissed off. And then I went to treatment the next day. Did the drug dealers know you were pregnant when you were getting your drugs? Yeah, so I was using methamphetamine, and so we were actually getting it from this guy that lived in this trailer out in Maumelle. What was that city called? Morgan. And we would drive all the way out there, and I was pregnant, and I would go inside, and they all knew I was pregnant, and I was shooting up methamphetamine in their bedroom. It's very shameful. I feel very ashamed of it, but me and my husband, to these people, we're customers, and so they weren't going to, say, no, you can't have this. I mean, some people might, but these people didn't. Hey, Steve, we know that, honey. So, I mean, and please understand that, like, I felt like shit doing that. I knew what I was doing was wrong, and that's why I would try to stop, and I would stop successfully. I would stop, and there was points in my pregnancy for those 9 months that I was stopped for 30 days, white knuckling it at home by myself. Neil's working overnight, and my only friend is Tara, who smokes crack and shoots methamphetamine, right? And so when Tara, right, and then me and Tara would get together, and we would feed off of each other. And she'd be like, oh, you did so good for 3 weeks. And I'm like, you're right, girl, I did do good for 3 weeks. And we would both come to the conclusion that I deserved it. You know what I mean? And I would hide it from my husband. I want that to be very clear. Like, I would lie to Neil. I would go behind his back, and I would go with my friend. And I would go with my friend Nate, and I stayed with Nate for like a week behind my husband's back. He was pissed as hell, and I was fucked up. That was fucked up. No, I don't hang out with her anymore. Tara, she's the one who called CPS on me as well. What happened in our relationship was she called CPS on me because she owed me $30. And instead of paying me the $30 back, like I asked her to nicely, she got upset with me and told me no. So I said, you're not going to pay me back. I'm going to get it from your boyfriend. Okay. And so her boyfriend was a police officer, a Little Rock police officer. And please understand this, her boyfriend was a Little Rock police officer, but he was a nasty old motherfucking dog. Okay. He wanted to like watch me and her do stuff together like he was a nasty. Okay. He was married and had 3 kids and a big old nasty. So I went to call him and I said, hey man, you know that $30 Tara owes me, can you give it back to me because she doesn't have it? He's like, sure. And so I went and got it from him, and because I did that, she got pissed, and she called me and she told me she was going to call CPS on me, and she did. And that is why my son got taken from me. After that happened though, I confronted her about it and she denied it. She completely denied it, said that she didn't call CPS on me, lied through her motherfucking teeth. And I, of course, didn't believe her, and I stopped talking to her. Told her I would never talk to her again, that if I ever saw her again, I would run her the fuck over with my husband's truck. Like, it was not cool. My husband wished death upon her. We both told her if we ever seen her again, we'd fucking kill her. Well, about 2.5 or 3 years after I got sober, I was at my job working at Hallmark, and at the time I was doing the card section in Kroger for Hallmark, and I used to vlog. I used to take you guys to my job with me and do the card section at Hallmark on my old channel. So I'm at work one day and I'm doing the cards, and I look up from the cards and I'm looking out into the Kroger, looking at everybody out there. And she sees me and I see her. Like, we both catch each other's eye contact. And I can already see that she's getting emotional, okay? At this time, I had already worked through the 12 steps with my sponsor multiple times through. And I had basically, taken full responsibility for my addiction. And I had realized that even though I don't think what she did was right, even though CPS was really shitty and fucked up, I still can admit and accept that, them coming into my life is what catapulted me getting sober and getting my son, And so even though I feel like what happened was not right, the way they did me was not right, I could still see where it helped change my life for the positive. So when she saw me from across the Kroger, she looked at me, I looked at her, and she started crying. She came over there and she didn't even have to say anything. I just told her I forgave her. I said, I forgive you, She continued to sit there and lie to me, tell me that she didn't call CPS on me, and I still told her, it's okay, I forgive you, okay? After that happened, I went on about my life, gave her my phone number, told her if she needed anything, if she wanted to get sober, she could reach out to me anytime, and I would help her get sober, right? So one day I'm chilling at my house, I was at work. One day I'm at work and I get a phone call, and it's like a couple of years later. It's like I have 6 years sober by this time. And she's calling my phone and she's tripping out, saying that there is some man underneath her daughter's bed and that he's having sex with her daughter. Now, her daughter was like 11 years old, okay? So, against my better judgment, I dropped what I was doing and I went to her house to help. And the reason why I did that, I would not recommend anybody else do that, especially by yourself. I should not have done that, but I did. The reason why I did was because her daughter was there, and I wanted to make sure her daughter was okay. I offered to take her daughter home with me and let her stay the night with me, everything, okay? So when I went over there, I walked up the stairs to her apartment, 'cause she lives in an apartment like I do. She was waiting on the front porch of her apartment for me, and her eyes were bugging out of her head, and that's when I knew she was high and having hallucinations. So she wanted me to come inside and look at everything. Look under the bed, look here, look there, look everywhere. And so that's what I did. I looked everywhere and showed her that there was nobody in the house. And of course, as I went through everything, she was so high and hallucinating so bad that she was showing me a video of her cameras that she had set up and pointing to it and saying, see, though, there they are, and there was nobody there. So before I got ready to leave, because I had to go get Nate from school, I said, if you want me to, I can take your daughter home with me. She can stay the night tonight. You can get some rest, and I'll bring her back tomorrow, And she said, bitch, fuck you. I'm not letting you have my kid. And I was like, okay. And I gave her daughter my phone number and told her if she wanted me to do something else, call somebody else, have them come get her, anything like that, I would. But I was not going to call CPS on her because the little girl asked me not to. She didn't want to get taken away from her mom. At the end of the day, she was old enough to take care of herself, and she was, okay. And she was also old enough to understand that she didn't want to be taken by CPS, and I didn't want her to go into the system. I knew that she could call her aunt or somebody else. And that's what I do. She had her own phone. I had her call her aunt, which was Tara's sister or somebody like that. And they ended up coming and getting her. But yeah, I could have called CPS right that minute. I could have had her fucking door kicked in. But that's not the kind of person I am. And if you guys haven't learned that about me yet from watching me on social media and watching me how I handle things with this whole JK situation, if y'all haven't learned that about me yet, I don't know what else to show y'all. But I am just not a vindictive, spiteful, nasty ass person. Like, I genuinely really do care about people. So I left that day, and I was like, damn, dude, that's really fucked up. And I said a prayer for her and told her, if she ever wanted to get sober, I would help her get sober. Just give me a call. I would help her. I would be her sponsor. I would do anything to help her get sober. Then, like 6 months later, it's my 6.5-year sobriety birthday. And I'm making like a huge fuss about it online, right? I'm talking about it being my 6.5 years. We're celebrating on my TikTok channel and Facebook, and she sees me on TikTok, and that's when she calls me again. And she says, happy 6.5 years. I'm so proud of you. And I was like, thank you so much, girl. And that's when she said, I did call CPS on you. I was like, holy shit, man. Like, fucking finally, closure, right? And I said, I know. 6.5 years of fucking lying to my face every day, even after I told her I forgave her at like 3 years sober. And she finally came to me and said, I'm the one who called CPS on you. I was like, girl, I know. She said, I'm the one who called CPS on you. But I did it because I was worried about Nate. And I was like, girl, stop fucking lying. I was like, because here's the thing, you guys. My son was taken care of. We lived with my mother and father-in-law up until May of 2015. My son was never in harm's way because he was with my mother and father-in-law during my addiction. Okay? We were only in that house without my mother and father-in-law in active addiction from May to June to the 1st of July, and that's it, 30 days. Okay? So my son was never left in no trap houses. He was never left he was with his Gigi. Gigi woke him, like, I'm telling you guys, like, this woman was with me and my husband, even when we were high, we all lived in the same, you could say, there's no justifying calling CPS on me because you were mad because I didn't pay you $30. That's why you did it. Okay? That's why you did it. So she admits to me, that she did do it, but then tries to tell me it was because my son was malnourished. I was like, this bitch is... Y'all see my son's baby pictures. He was plump and perfect, okay? Like I said, he was with us for 30 days of our addiction by himself, and that's it, okay? And even then, y'all know how nosy my motherfucking mother-in-law is. She came by our house every fucking day of the week, okay? There was never a time where she wasn't in my business, okay? Especially when I was in active addiction. I think that's why it was so hard for her when I got sober to not be in my business, because she always had to be in my business before because I was always fucked up, So I said, just don't say anything. Don't try to justify what you did. Thank you for being honest. Thank you for finally coming clean and telling me the truth. I already knew. And I forgave you 5 years ago, 4 years ago. So that's when she told me that she was trying to get sober and that she was going to be a foster parent. And I was like, ain't no fucking way, bitch. Ain't no fucking way you gonna. The state of Arkansas would never. Okay? And so she was like telling me these like lies that she was foster parenting kids and that like all this stuff. And I was like, what? How? Right? And so she told me that she was sober, this, that, and the third. And then 6 months later, around when I turned 7 years sober, she called me crying. And I was like, what's wrong? And she's like, CPS took my daughter. And I was like, I don't know why I said for what, but I was like, for what? You know, I knew exactly for what. This was a long time coming. Tara took that little girl to the fucking children's hospital to have them run a rape kit on her because she thought the men that she was hallucinating were raping her daughter. Okay, like it should have happened a year ago. And so listen to this shit though. Listen to this. So they take her daughter and her daughter goes into care for 30 days. And I kid you not, they gave her daughter back to her after 30 days because she passed 4 drug tests. What? I was like, so what that tells me is they never opened a case on her. It was like just a preliminary thing, right? And so it was so confusing to me to see that happen like that because like me and my husband, when Nathaniel got taken from us, I was working as an assistant manager at McDonald's. He was actually working at Kimberly Clark. We had our own home. We were just fucked up we just had drugs in our system, you know? And so to see how someone else who I knew was like way worse off than I was, right? Have their child just given back to them. But her daughter was also like 12 when she got taken away. So I truly believe that, you know, because her daughter was not a young baby, that they really didn't have a lot of interest in that situation. And so that's why I believe that a lot of the reasons why Nathaniel got taken from us so quickly and for so long, for that year, was because he was a baby, you know? And they really look for that kind of thing. They look for young babies to put into the system. Yeah, they just do what they want. And it's really the luck of the draw. Like you could have a caseworker that comes in and is super amazing and wants to help you and work with you and make changes. Or you could have a caseworker that comes in like I did, who like didn't even give me a chance. Like I was honest and upfront about my struggles. I told her I would love to go to rehab if they could help me get into treatment. And what they do is they use all that information against you. And so, you know, I didn't know any better. Now that I'm older and I've been through the situation with CPS before, if they ever came to my home ever again, I would slam the door in their fucking face, tell them to sit on it and spin and get fucked. Like I would not give them time of day. They have no jurisdiction over my fucking life, you know, and I would tell them to get fucked. Get the fuck out of my life. Get the fuck off my doorstep. I don't owe you an explanation. It doesn't matter if I'm fucking taking 65 fucking pills a day and doing this, that. It doesn't matter. Like this is my fucking house. This is my fucking, you're not entitled to anything about my life. As long as my child is safe and taken care of, you know, get fucked. But back then, I didn't know that. And so whenever they reached out to me, they had come to my house and I wasn't home. I was at work. And so I called them and they were like, we need you to come by here. And so I went by there with my little boy and my father-in-law. And when I met with the lady, I was honest. I was like, yeah, I'm struggling. I'm an addict and I'm trying to sober up and I'm working a job. My husband's working a job, all that. But they didn't care about that. When the minute they fucking seen how sweet and cooperating I was and that I was trying to do better, they took advantage of that. You know, my husband, on the other hand, told them to get fucked, and he wasn't going to tell them a damn thing about his life. And so I should have fucking listened. I should have. My father-in-law was trying to help me and telling me not to say anything else, but I had already told them so much, because she took me in like a private room by myself. And so I really didn't understand. But anyway, in the long run, I'm very fortunate, you guys, that I got my son back, because for those of you guys that don't know, they were trying to keep my son. They were trying to say that I was mentally not fit to have my son. They were trying to make up a diagnosis that would fit me, because I wasn't, every psychological evaluation I went to didn't have bipolar disorder, didn't have BPD, didn't have didn't have this, didn't have that. All they could say was that, yeah, she's probably has depression and anxiety. I think I got a generalized anxiety disorder and depression diagnosis, So, but I got Nate back, and that's all that matters, really. I will tell you this, though. After I got him back, 2 years later, they asked me to work for them. Okay. That's how great I did in the fucking CPS program. I literally, did phenomenal, because I wasn't trying to hurt my son. I genuinely just struggled with drug addiction. I just needed help getting sober. I wasn't a bad mom, or a bad person. I just really struggled with taking drugs. So, and just because a person struggles with taking drugs doesn't mean they're a bad person or a bad mom even, I just needed help with that, Yeah, they asked me to work as a parent partner, and I did it for one day. So about 2 or 3 years after I got sober, they asked me to become a parent partner, and I'll never forget it. They assigned me to a woman who was developmentally delayed. And her child had gotten taken away from her because she was unable to work or provide proper shelter, food, everything for this baby. The baby had a shunt, a G-tube, all kinds of different medical problems. And I remember talking to this woman and knowing just from talking to her that she was going to be unable to take care of that baby. Okay, like I'm talking developmentally delayed, to where she still needed someone to take care of her as a woman. She had a baby's mind as a woman, and she had gotten pregnant. And they were actually giving this poor woman that. So I sat there in the class with her for the hour that I needed to be there. I gave her my cell phone number and told her if she needed anything, she could text or call me. But I wasn't going to be coming back to that job, but I would be more than welcome to give her support during this hard time. And I never went back ever again, because to me, that was just evil. That was evil that they were setting this poor woman up to believe that she might have her baby one day, because honestly, as a person that's not developmentally delayed, I would have a problem caring for the baby because of all of the medical issues this child had. Okay. It was very, very, very severe. Okay. And so I never went back. I left and I never went back. So it was really, really sad. But yeah, that's a program that they have here. It's called Parent Partnering, and it's where they partner a parent who has had their child taken away from them with another parent who has went through the system before and successfully navigated getting their child back, kind of like as a peer support specialist. So, Rob, that's a great question. I'm glad that you asked. It was an incest situation. So that was another thing. They were from like a part of Arkansas that's not even like close to Little Rock. It was like hours away in like a really tiny, small rural town where they don't even have a Walmart. They have like one gas station in the whole town. And it was like her uncle raped her or something like that. So I think the reason why the little baby had so many medical issues was because it was a baby that was born from that situation. You know what I mean? It was fucked up. It was fucked up. Okay? Like, imagine being put in, like, I can't even believe they put me in that position, my first person, you know? And I know that but they also knew how caring and sensitive I was. That's why I still stayed in contact with that woman for 2 or 3 years after that situation happened. And she didn't get her baby back. Okay? And the last time I talked to her, she was calling me, asking me to send her some money because she didn't have no food to eat. She didn't have no money. And I think I sent her like some money on PayPal or something like that. But like I had to she struggled so much developmentally that a lot of times she could call me and we could talk about like little things, but like me sending her money and her actually being able to get it, I would have to like talk to her, somebody else that lived in the house that could actually help her to get the money because she couldn't do that. Like it was very, 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 very sad. It was a really fucked up situation. It really, really was. So I felt when I left the rehab, when I left CPS that day, I got in my car and I started bawling my eyes out, you know, because to me that was just wicked, you know, it was wicked. And also, Diamond Eyes, like it was hard for me to believe and understand that that kind of shit is still happening to people, that people are being raped by their aunts and uncles and husbands, or aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters, whatever, and that's happening. And that was like a direct slap of reality to my face of how much shit goes down in like in families. It made me sick, you know? Yes, Rob, yes. And so yeah. So that's that. But anyway, I don't even know what the question was. Did y'all have another question for me? I got Nate back. I worked really hard to get my son back. Whenever he was taken away from me and my husband, we were not married. So what they did was they did a genetic testing or whatever it's called, paternity test on my husband to make sure that he was actually the father of my child, which I had no doubt in my mind. And a lot of the rules that they set were on me. Like the rules that they put on Neil were not as strict as they were on me. Like my husband just needed to get into a program, like an MAT program. And that's what he did. He got into the Suboxone treatment program. And, but I had to go into residential treatment. I had to complete that. We both had to do parenting classes together. We both had to have gainful employment, a place to live, transportation. And so it was really, really a lot of work, but we got it done. So yeah, when I got on Suboxone, it was actually my caseworker who recommended it because she saw how much I was struggling to stay sober inside of the treatment center, you know. It wasn't because I didn't love my son, you guys. It's just because I had used drugs for 16 years, 15 and a half, 16 years. And so that's almost 20 years of drug addiction. That's what I knew. That's how I knew how to cope. I didn't know how to cope without using drugs or alcohol. And so when I was trying to get and stay sober, I would fail and I kept falling back because I didn't know how to cope with life without substances. And so it was really, really hard for me because I had been using drugs for so long and did not know how to stay sober. It was really difficult. Are you hungry, Nate? Probably not. I think I'm gonna have me a bean and cheese burrito. Nate, are you hungry, buddy? I'm having a cheap bean and cheese burrito. Don't judge me. But anyways, if you guys, if you have any more questions, go ahead and ask me real quick because I'm about to jump off here. But I don't, I love answering y'all's questions. I love helping you guys. I hope hearing my stories help you guys understand addiction a little bit more. I hope, hearing my experience helps you be a little bit more understanding, of maybe other women that struggle with addiction while pregnant. Like at the core of my soul, I know what I did was wrong, and I feel deeply, deeply ashamed of it, but I cannot change it. Like, what's done is done. And so the only thing that I know how to do now is to share those experiences with you, so maybe it will help you guys to help other people not make the same mistake I made. Yeah, I don't think that's normal, Highway Rob. I think there was one pregnant girl in my class, but that was back in the 2000. I was, or 98, 99, 2000. Oh, I love you, Sherry. I appreciate you. I haven't. Are they good? The dumplings? I'll have to try them. Right. It happened. I'm not going to act like it didn't happen. I'm not going to lie about my story. Like, I have always been transparent and straight up about my story since day one. And that's really, really important to me. I think that's a lot of the reasons why I feel so deeply when I find out that someone else is not being honest about something so serious. I think that's why it makes me so upset, because I know how hard it has been for me to share a lot of the really fucking tragic shit and fucked up shit I did, and the backlash and judgment that I've gotten from it, especially from normal people. And so, it's not easy.
Oh my gosh, it's so good. It's like, I'm really done. Okay, stop listening to the phone.
And I want y'all to understand, like, I support all pathways to recovery. Like, I believe in multiple pathways to recovery, okay? I understand that everybody's different. Not everybody is going to be able to use medication-assisted treatment. Not everybody's going to be able to, use Alcoholics Anonymous. Not everybody's going to be able to do the same way of recovery. But, recovery is recovery, period, okay? And so, at the end of the day, I want people to be safe and honest, okay? Because to me, the number one thing to get sober and stay sober is to be honest. If you can't be honest with yourself or other people, then that's going to keep you blocked off from sobriety and actually thriving and moving forward,
Nobody can get here. There's no way anybody's smart enough to get in here. Like, there's actually no way. I'll just pick right over.
Some people, and this always bothers me. I don't know. Some people on Reddit were like trying to, this on another subreddit, not the one that I love, but another one. And they were like trying to act like I was like lying about my story or something like that, because I had talked about my benzo addiction and how it started when I worked at the revenue office. And it was like they were trying to act like I maybe lied about it or fabricated it. And I'm like, because I went through cold turkey Xanax withdrawal. That's why. And they were saying, there's no way that you went through cold turkey Xanax withdrawal without having a seizure. And I'm like, yes, I did. Like, why would I lie to you guys about that? It was horrible, okay? And it was like the worst thing that ever happened. And I struggled and suffered for months after that, for 8 months. But I was honest about it. And I don't know why somebody would think that I would lie about it, But yeah, I don't have anything to hide or lie about when it comes to my story. Yeah, that's my little boy. He's playing his video games. But I don't have any reason to lie or hide anything in my story. Like, everything I share with you guys is the truth. Yeah, so.
I disconnected for a second because I had to check my battery.
Oh, it was horrible. I'm having a bean and cheese burrito. So the reason why I don't think I had seizures, this is what happened. So, excuse me. When I went into treatment, this was when Nate got taken away from me. I was coming off benzos. When I went into treatment, they titrated me off of Roxy's with Suboxone. And it was like a 3-day Suboxone taper, and then I got nothing. I was in detox for a total. My husband sneaked me some Xanaxes in, so I was back on Xanax, right? So it was probably a good 2 weeks of me taking Xanaxes every single day, and then they caught me. And they told me, you're fucked. They said, you ain't getting no more Xanax. And so I had to go through it, detox again, in treatment without anything.
Stay all the way back here.
So, anyway, yeah. So if guys, I think some of you guys were wanting to get a hold of me. You want to get a hold of me, you can text me on my cell phone or send me a message to my Instagram, which is Discovering Nicole 77. And I hope you guys enjoyed hanging out with me and chit-chatting. I didn't expect to stay on here for this long, but we got to talking about my sobriety story and my addiction and my pregnancy. So, you know, whenever I have a chance to share with you guys to help you to understand what happened and what I went through and what I put myself through, okay? I put myself through this shit. I take full responsibility, and I feel, like I said, deeply, deeply ashamed of the fact that I was pregnant with my son, and I could not stop using drugs. I wish I could go back every single day and change it. I think about it every single day. Anytime my son struggles with anything at all, I think about that. I think about it's my fault, and I'm not doing this because I want sympathy. I'm not doing this to make you feel bad. I just want you to understand that making a mistake like I did is a lifelong mistake. It's a lifelong feeling of haunting me. And the only way I know how to live it down is to keep doing the right thing and be a good mother to my son. And try to help other people that are struggling with addiction. And so the reason why I help people is not only because I love it and I enjoy helping people, but it's because it's my way of paying back for what I did. Because what I did was wrong. And I want to do better. And I want to help people not make the same mistake I did. So, anyways, I love you guys. I don't want to be all crying and looking ugly because I'm an ugly crier, okay? But I love you guys. I really appreciate all of y'all's support, and I hope you guys enjoy the fact that we're getting back to our recovery. And I hope you guys, have a great weekend. And I will see my patrons tomorrow at about noonish. I will put the time in the Patreon so y'all will know. But we'll make some cucumber salad tomorrow and talk more about recovery and just staying sober and helping each other stay sober tomorrow in our Patreon meeting. Okay? All right. Love you guys. Everybody be good. See you later.